The homeless crisis in America is at an all-time high. And I don't have the answers. I really don't. But I can tell you that from what I'm seeing, something has to give. Something has to give. Or you're going to start seeing bodies laying around. People are starving out there. They've been starving out there. Resources are becoming more and more limited. Food banks and food service centers, they're shutting down. Money's drying up. Shouldn't be surprised. Look at how expensive everything is in the store. Utilities are even expensive. Electricity, gas, water, everything's expensive. So you have to understand that the people at the bottom are also going to be impacted. So if there's limited resources in the middle and everything is expensive in the middle, so then less people are spending money. If less people are spending money, less food is making it down to those that otherwise would have nothing. So the homeless crisis is real. It's real. I don't have the answers. I know some folks have said some vile things in the last few days. I know there was one guy on Fox News saying they need to be given a lethal injection involuntarily. That's just sick, and he's a disgusting person. The way they talk about the homeless is like dogs. It's disgusting. They're still people. Some don't get me wrong. There are homeless people out there with substance abuse problems. There are homeless people out there with mental health problems. There are homeless people out there who otherwise just cannot operate in society, be around people, which it kind of goes back to mental health. There are homeless people out there because they don't want to be homeless, because they were in a job that they were one paycheck away from being homeless, and all of a sudden they got laid off because the job decided to now hire a computer to do what they did. So now they're homeless or living out of their car, which is still homeless. The crisis is real. It's real. I'm not here to debate, with people on people being homeless and they should be able to get up off their feet and they're there because they want to be. With that, I'll make a statement. I'll make a statement with that. I only debate my equals. I educate all others. It's a stupid ass argument. That's my point. So you won't get that argument out of me. Some people are not there. Everybody's not there because they're lazy or because they don't want to do their part in society. Some people have found themselves in unfortunate situations. We just got to recognize that. Times are tough. Times are tough right now. And if you don't believe me, just go around some apartments in an impoverished community and just drive through the apartments and look. And I guarantee you'll probably see someone whose furniture has been put out on the curb because they've gotten evicted. You see that all the time now. That's actually become big business, believe it or not. Yeah. You have the garbage men that go out and pick up garbage, but you actually have folks that go out and pick up evicted personal effects. The apartments call it rubbish. That's somebody's belongings. And there are people that are making money off that now. So not only is there misery, but some are benefiting from the misery. And I hope we get to a point to where we begin to have a real good conversation on the homeless and really, really come to an agreement on, what should be done with the homeless. Because right now, there are some cities that are having, for example, the city of Austin, they have some initiative called HEAL, H-E-A-L. I haven't looked into it, but I've heard some of the homeless people talk about it and said, basically, they're trying to relocate folks that have already been relocated. And how do you do that? And this thing really is kind of meant to dry up the homeless population, to kind of just, it seems like it's meant for them to die off, man. You know what I'm saying? They're trying to push them out of downtown Austin, push them away from downtown Austin. At first, they told them to come to downtown Austin. Now they're trying to push them away, but they have no place to go to. And homeless encampments, which is out in the brush or in the woods or whatever. They have a lot of homeless encampments here in Austin. They're shutting those down. They're going and throwing people's stuff away and clearing those out. And I get it. I'm not here to argue with people and saying that's something that everybody wants to see all the time. But I can tell you one thing, there's a big difference between seeing it and living through it. And so I'd rather see it. And unfortunately, we have to see it sometimes, depending on where we're driving on the streets every day. But we're seeing it, but we're not living through it. So when you're living through it through those eyes, I think you probably have a different perspective on it. And like I say, everybody has their own opinion about the homeless population. I mean, some people, I've heard horror stories about, there are some people actually doing harm to people in the homeless communities. There are folks actually serving food to the homeless out there with poisons in them and toxins in them, making them sick. They're treating them like cockroaches, trying to get them get them sick and try to make them die off. Yeah, people are giving them bad stuff down there. They're definitely doing that. There are bad drugs being pushed within the homeless communities. The homeless population is saying that some of the drugs, where's the stuff coming from? Because you can't just go in the Walgreens or in your local hospital to get some of these drugs. Where's the stuff coming from? Somebody's pushing into these homeless communities. It's almost like they want to die off like cockroaches. But when I heard that there are people giving them food with poison in it, with toxins in them to make them sick, I thought that's the most lowest, disgusting thing. And it's not uncommon to hear people that go and attack homeless people within homeless camps. I've heard stories of guys taking baseball bats and going and just whacking them, just whack-a-mole them, just going to hit them and beating on them, just trying to make them leave and beating on them because life is beating on them. Imagine that. Imagine someone beating on you because life is beat on you. We're not all built the same. So the argument that they're doing it, they're there because they want to be, you can miss me on that one. Yes, there are some for sure that can get up off their ass and do right if they want to. But there are some out there that can't. And those struggling with mental health, what else are they going to do? There are no mental health resources. The only other option is jail, and they're full of folks who should be in mental health institutions rather than incarcerated. But that's the system you have here. There is no mental health system. If you've got money for mental health care, for therapy, if you got the money, because mental health is not just a one-time thing. It's not like taking an aspirin and fixing it. You got to be consistent. You got to keep going to therapy and keep going to visit, and it costs. And the insurance companies don't want to pay that. So what happens? These folks end up out on the streets or end up in jail. It's unfortunate. The mental health system in this country is broken, and it has been broken for a long time. And we wonder why people are committing their suicide. People are committing, unaliving themselves all over the place, and people are, coming to wits end and just saying they can't go any further because they don't have anywhere to go. They don't have any resources to go to. There are no mental health resources. So I think that's something that definitely needs to be addressed. Because within the homeless population, mental health is a huge issue, but it's not the issue. It is definitely a huge issue. But I don't think we should paint the homeless population with a broad brush and say they all have mental health issues. I just don't think that's the case. There are a lot of reasons for folks to be homeless out there. And I know, for one thing, there are a lot of people out there who don't want to be out there, but they're forced to. While many of us sit back and we try to judge them or look down on them or vilify them, or we don't want to see them. And they've said this. They said that's one of the most horrible things for a homeless person is for just regular everyday people not to see them. Treat them like ghosts, like they don't exist. That's got to be the worst feeling in the world. It's got to be the worst feeling in the world. But we'd rather turn a blind eye to that problem than to lend a hand, a helping hand. I'm not vilifying those folks that can't or won't. I'm just saying if you can't help, then don't hurt. They're homeless. They have nothing. They have nowhere to go. And then you step on them. Shame on you. Shame on you. Let's continue to hold our homeless population up. Continue to support the feeding centers and the food banks that are still in operation. But I'm telling you, they are shuttering. They are closing. People are suffering out here. Food bank is only as good as the food is given. If everything else in the grocery store is high, nobody's buying stuff in the grocery stores, they're cutting back. So that's why you're seeing the shelves in the grocery stores that are thin. They don't need as many groceries now because people are not buying as many groceries as they used to. People are stretching things out now. People are cutting certain things out. And when they start doing that, the grocery stores, they order less and less foods for their shelves. And so when it's time for these grocery stores to donate some of these foods to food banks and feeding centers, particularly some foods that are either really close to expiration, they've expired just by a little bit. There's a limit on it. The safety folks at the health agencies can tell you what that is. But they actually allow them to be given foods that have expired up to a certain amount of time. But if there's no foods in the stores, ain't no foods in the food banks or the feeding centers. So let's not turn a blind eye to that. Let's all, hold those folks up, do what we can, do whatever you can. If you can give a little bit, it's worth a whole lot. But doing nothing is also worth a whole lot. It's worth a whole lot of continued misery. Y'all take care. Bye-bye.